Now, Representative Travis Couture, who is a Republican from the Allen Shelton area, he's also sharing his thoughts about the documents. Like others have told us, he kind of said, I'm not shocked, not really surprised, but it is enlightening to kind of see behind the curtain as to how these things were being collaborated on crafting the legislation. As we've noted, it is not illegal for lawmakers to ask for consult from the office of the attorney general. Would it be okay if I wrote the bill this way? Is there any legal precedent that precludes me from writing legislation in this way? They often do that. But this is different. This went far beyond it based on the documents that my colleague TJ Martinell received. This went far beyond that. This was a constant back and forth with the Solicitor General actually making suggestions on how to keep the public from having a voice by attaching an emergency or necessity clause. Let's Go Washington, who is back in the effort, going to the state Supreme Court, in fact, next week, asking for the Secretary of State to be sort of overturned in his decision not to allow a referendum to proceed. Let's Go Washington is actually filing some additional documents with the state Supreme Court based on the Center Square's retention of these documents. They believe it may well play into their case. So we'll see if it in fact ends up playing into the actual lawsuit filed again by Cadiff and A.G. McKenna, former A.G. McKenna, in Klickitat County Superior Court. So here is part of my conversation with Representative Travis Couture.
My first reaction, I guess, was that I'm not surprised at all. This is exactly how I've come to learn how Olympia operates. It's sometimes it's kind of just gross, but it doesn't surprise me at all. But that doesn't make it any less kind of shocking to the system, especially if you're kind of uninitiated in how Olympia works. I've always said Olympia is a place for special interests and elites now. The coastal elites, that's who the Democrats represent. And if you are well connected with the folks in Olympia in the majority party, you can get what you need. You will get the money, you will get the laws passed, you will get whatever radical policy it is. And so that's kind of this in a microcosm, right? That it's on display here in these internal documents. And, I remember we had this 24 and a half hour floor fight in the House over the income tax. And in almost 25 hours, you could talk about every single part of that bill, and I did. I think I'm at least like a sixth of that entire debate is how long I spoke for it. But for instance, the marriage penalty, they're warning about the marriage penalty in these documents. The Attorney General's office is warning of that, and we warned about it many times on the House floor. Again, not a surprise. That's a huge problem. But I think that my second big takeaway of this is less about, how do we carve up and create a legislation for an income tax, but it's that the Attorney General, Nick Brown, and his underlings, his jackbooted thugs over there at his office, who now, by the way, have sweeping new powers for civil investigative demands on businesses and individuals, crushing your First and Fourth Amendment rights. Aside from that, they work for the people of Washington. Nick Brown was elected by the people of the state of Washington, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or anywhere in between. And what I'm seeing in these documents is not an attorney general's office that works for the people. It's an attorney general's office that works for political insiders and for a few malfeasant senators and House representatives who happen to be in power. And the whole goal is so that they can help the majority party craft what they admit is a blatantly unconstitutional law that has many flaws. And in doing so, how could they side skirt and subvert the will of the people in this process So not only were they not working for the people of the state of Washington in this process, but they were actively looking to sidestep the people of the state of Washington.
Now, Representative Couture went so far as to say that A.G. Brown, because of what has been revealed, is unfit for office. He said these revelations prove that the office has been working against the people and really just for the elite and for insiders. And he believes it should result in consequences for A.G. Brown.
To me, this disqualifies Nick Brown, and I mean, this should disqualify Nick Brown from serving as our Attorney General. I mean, he's the captain of this ship, and I believe this is the atmosphere he's created. The radical, it's activism. It's radical socialist activism disguised as an Attorney General's office. And so at the end of the day, we have to overturn this income tax. And I hope that some of these documents are brought to light during that court process as it goes forward. Because this thing is, despite the unconstitutionality and everything else, if it is allowed by the court, and they're advising Democrats to literally challenge, and they say it's not 100%, but we believe, there's a really good chance that if we do it this way and bring it to the court, it's going to pass. And not because they believe it's actually good law or constitutional, but because they have a stacked leftist court.
I did reach out for comment to the office of Attorney General Nick Brown, and also sent them some comments from Representative Couture suggesting that, Nick Brown should be disqualified from office because of what has been revealed. And I received a response from Mike Falk, who is Brown's deputy communications director. We'll put that up for you. He started out by saying, "This is absurd. Nothing in the articles on this subject have found anything our office did improperly. We have a legal and professional obligation to advise our clients and will continue doing so in accordance with the law. Calling on the AG to resign when our office did nothing wrong is not only silly, it undermines efforts at accountability when state agencies or elected officials actually do things wrong." So again, that was a comment from the office of Nick Brown's deputy communications director, Mike Falk. And I also reached out to Senator Peterson's office. I did not receive a response. But here was something interesting. An unnamed Democrat who was one of several on the House side, I believe there were 8 on the House side, that voted against the income tax, Senate Bill 6346, upon final passage. This lawmaker did speak to me off the record today, sharing some concerns, and I'll paraphrase here a bit because I did not record the conversation, but I did have this lawmaker's permission to share some of their thoughts and logic as to, why they're not speaking out publicly since all this was revealed this week. And this lawmaker told me there would be a, quote, bigger target on my back if they spoke with us. This member told me that the center square, they were afraid of speaking with us at the center square, that there would be repercussions from Democratic leadership if they did so. And this Democratic member called leadership arrogant and said speaking out at this point would bring what the member called a swift and sure retribution. But this person added they were not at all surprised to learn of the collaboration between the AG's office and Senator Peterson on the income tax bill. We're still making every effort to get a hold of other Democrats, as well as those who supported it, didn't support it. Again, at this point, no one willing to speak on the record, but it was interesting to get those comments from the member who spoke to me today by phone off the record.